What's good, guys? What's going on? So, back-to-back videos. Check out my video yesterday. Was a Duelist Cup, sort of Master Duel breakdown, explained, top decks, all that good stuff. But we're going to focus on the TCG here and look back over the last season. Take a look at what were the best cards to come out of this year. So, for anyone that's missed this season, took a break, coming into the game, I'm going to recap some of the best cards we've had this season, starting from Synchro Storm all the way up until Duels of the Deep. I'm not going to cover Power of the Elements. I feel like this format, or this set, sorry, is for next season, so the 2023 season. But anything up until Synchro Storm, till Duels of the Deep, we'll be covering. So, without further ado, we're going to get straight on into it. Okay, so number 5, we're going to go straight in, Illusion of Chaos. This was introduced in Battle of Chaos, a set that dropped January time, 2022. And initially people were speculating whether this card would be good or not in the Adventure engine, or as part of the Adventure engine with Magician's Souls. But this card, in my opinion, raised the power level of that engine, the power level of the game in general. It was super impactful straight off the rip. And I think it'll have a lot of play going forward as long as Magician's Souls is indeed a card. I don't think that card will be going on the ban list anytime soon, so we can expect this card to see a lot of play going forward, whether that's in the Adventure engine or in different engines that come out in the future. I really think Illusion of Chaos is a really cool card for Dark Magician support in general, and for the utility of giving us more Magician's Souls, which can really work well with and synergize with different engines in the game. So it's a really cool card. I really enjoyed playing it when I had the chance to, mostly in Prank Kids, which was really broken. But yeah, I think this card has an instant impact straight out of the gates, coming into more so adventure decks, but of course it is a Dark Magician deck, so we'll chuck that in at number 5. Next is Baron de Fleur. So number 4, I'm going to put Baron because it's just a crazy generic level 10 synchro. If you remember in 2019 we had Borrowed Savage Dragon, which kind of had the same impact for me. It was a generic synchro that was used in like Pendulum and the Thunder Dragon deck and Crusadia deck. This card had that same sort of impact. It was a generic synchro, really good going second. I feel like this card is way better going second than first. It can pop cards, it can shuffle back itself in the extra deck to resummon itself out to get another negate. That also triggers a monster to be summoned to your side of the field to give you follow-up. So this card is the complete package. It did a lot of stuff on its own. Although I deem it quite fair, I do not think this card is broken in any way. I think it gives you a lot of utility, whether you're breaking boards, protecting your board, and also giving you follow-up to play on the following turn. So for that reason, I'm going to put Baron de Fleur as my number 4 card released this season. Next is Destroy Phoenix Enforcer. So this card initially, straight out the blocks, was probably one of the best cards / engines the game's ever seen. There's a lot of hype that come from the OCG, so it wasn't an exclusive. We had a lot of data, mostly in like Phantom Knight decks, and it was splashed in engines here and there. But yeah, this card was dominating straight out of Burst of Destiny, which was really early in the season, to be fair. I think it was the first couple of regionals in the season. We had this card, and crazy, like crazy good. So I could have put Fusion Destiny here, I could have put Verte here, but those cards were released previously. DPE itself was released this season, so for that reason alone, I'm going to chuck it in at number 3. But before we got into the top 2 cards, I'm going to do a little breakdown. Which was it here? So these are cards that weren't released this season, however had a massive impact in the game. So at the top here we've got Emergency Teleport. This card on its own was a 1 card, mill 5 and a Scythe Lock. Crazy card. You could also use it defensively to summon out a Ghost Ogre on your opponent's turn, which was like really good. Next is Forbidden Droplet. I think this card is probably one of the best staples we've ever had in the game. I put down here offensively and defensively, but it just did so much more than that. Breaking boards, damage step, shenanigans. Yeah, crazy card. Next is Proto. So Protos was a worm introduced back in Eternity Code. That's the one. And I had to think then. So it was searchable in their Sword Soul strategy, and I think that took the deck to the next level. It was just insane. So it's just basically a searchable monster floodgate that had destruction protection, and yeah, it kind of dominated the format. It won a YCS. I think it won 2 YCSs with Protoss. It done a lot basically. So yeah, next Versi Anaconda. This card was the most, in my opinion, top 3 most broken links ever created. A generic link 2 that can give you any fusion access in the game. Mostly used for DPE, which then was a boss monster, plus a draw 2 follow-up. Pretty good for just 2 monsters splashed together. Rest in peace, this card was broken, but rightfully so banned. Next is Dimension Shifter. So this card's been a really high impact card for a while, especially this season with the introduction of Flunderies, and we'll probably have it next season with Exo Sisters. So I think this card is one of those cards you just pray your opponent doesn't have it, or you pray you have the call by the Gamma. It's a 2-turn high impact floodgate hand trap, and yeah, I don't think I need to say too much about this card. Everyone hates this card getting dropped on them, but it's what it is. Next is Mystic Mine, and as we can see from the last 2 YCSs or major results in the game, especially in America, this card has dominated and shifted the metagame on its own, and having its presence in a format forces players to play like a main deck out. So Mystic Mine on its own, how this card is still legal, I have no idea. It is the most absurd card for just slowing down the tempo of the game, breaking your opponent's board, setting up your own board, playing under it. We're going to cover some decks that played through it really well and played under it really well, sorry. But yeah, this card shifted metagames on its own. It's crazy. Next, everyone's favourite card, Imperial Order. So this card was played mostly at the start of the format, or start of the season, sorry, where we had Sword Soul. It famously won a YCS by a Sword Soul player who opened it a lot, which is quite controversial, but yeah, it's basically a win button against most decks. You see Imperial Order going first in the opening hand, and you're just, yeah, you're feeling good. For that reason alone, a lot of people were just playing quick play, spell trap card removal just to try and play around it, going second. And that's crazy because this is just a one of in the game. But yeah, it came up a lot where players were getting sacked by it, including myself. But yeah, that's Yu-Gi-Oh! And yeah, we're going to get on to the remainder, last 2 best cards of the season. In number 2, I'm going to put Branded Fusion. So, although in my opinion, Despia was quite an underwhelming deck in the TCG, although the engine is so strong, people identified the choke points and the ways to beat it so quickly, and for that reason it wasn't sort of the best deck as people predicted, or as the OCG should have reflected to us. But there's no doubt Branded Fusion is one of the strongest spell cards, fusion cards, to ever come out the game. It allowed basically like follow-up disruption and a mill of snow to the grave. You could send any dark monsters to the grave. Yeah, this card's broken. This card's really strong. People were forced to play Ash in the main deck just to purely counter this card. And of course in Despia you could activate your Branded Lost, which protects this card. So there's loads of broken shenanigans you could do, and the fact this card did so much on its own, yeah, pretty good. I think rightfully so is number 2. And then the best card for the 2022 season, I don't think anyone should disagree. It should be Rite of Aramesia. The Avenger engine on its own, I hope to God this engine gets checked at least in the next ban list, because this card, or this engine in particular, has just been dominating the game since release. I'm very surprised it kept it unchecked until now. It dominated all the regionals on release weekend, all the way through until American nationals, UK nationals. Yeah, this engine on its own, having a token and negate, a bounce, a Fateful Adventure follow-up, keep giving you a token every turn, a Water Enchantress extender. Yeah, this engine did so much for the combo decks, raised the ceiling in the game tenfold, in my opinion, a lot. Although it was cool, you could do some cool synchro stuff, you could do some cool stuff with Magician Souls, as I mentioned. I would be happy to see the back of this engine for sure, because it is the most absurd thing ever. Good riddance when it does go eventually, but it's been cool to play with it, and for it to be the backbone of the season, really. I think a lot of, even the WCQ mat, or the Nationals mat, sorry, had the Right of Aramesia artwork on it, which says a lot. They wanted to sell this engine. It was certainly the card of the year, engine of the year, and that is my number one. If you guys have any disagreements or any further thoughts on maybe my choice of order of cards, feel free to let me know in the comments. That is my top 5 cards released for this season. I'm going to do a top 5 decks for the season, looking all the way back to start of Power of Burst of Destiny, sorry, all the way up until now. We're going to cover the top 5 decks of the season. So that is my top 5 cards of the season. Let me know your thoughts. Check out my socials, and I'll see you guys in the next one.